Now, usually when we do these kinds of videos, I pick a weapon, I level it up, I put forma, so much forma into it, and then we see the damage that it does. But in this video, we're gonna be doing something different. This is the SPINNEREX, and I think I'm gonna let the damage do the talking right now. Out of the 3 Ileweaver weapons that released during the Ileweaver update, I was most excited about this Tenno whip that we got. Orax's signature weapon is the first whip that we got ever since Archon Naira's whip in the new war, and I've always been a fan of whips in general in Warframe, especially dating back to the Atarax days where maiming strike was the meta. Now, if you like melee influence builds, then this build is right up your alley. It's basically melee influence but Toxin. Now, how do you get the SPINNEREX? You could get it very easily by turning in the currencies that you got from the event Ileweaver to Dominus Tracks. Right on the Dormi zone, you turn in your Scuttler Husks to Dominus Tracks for its parts. You might be saying, oh no, the event is already done. By the time you're watching this, it probably is done because it's only 1 day remaining. Now, DE hasn't released official statements in regards to how to get Oraxia and her weapons after the event, but I'm gonna hypothesize and guess that it's probably gonna be like Colervo, where we get a separate mission type in Duviri every time you run it. Maybe it needs a specific mood. We never know. But until then, read it on the Warframe wiki about the acquisition of the weapon. Almost every time they're up to date and all the information is available to you right there. Now, I'm a bit late to the party and there are a lot of YouTubers already that made videos about this weapon, but I'm gonna be trying to be unique here and try to dumb it down and explain how it actually works for the people that are curious. When I said that this was the toxic melee influence, I meant it. Now, if you guys aren't familiar with melee influence, a brief explanation. Every time you melee an enemy with an electricity proc, that means your weapon needs to have electricity damage. There's a 20% chance, this is on rank 5 by the way, for elemental status effects to apply to enemies within 20 meters for 18 seconds. That doesn't just mean that only electricity procs spread. That means every elemental status mod that you have on that weapon spreads if you have an electric on there. When we look at the unique passive of the SPINNEREX, it's basically the same thing. The only difference though is that now it's on death and not on hit, and it has a 10% chance to spread your toxin status effect for each stack. That means if you have a 48 stack toxin, there's a 10% chance that that 48 stacks could transfer to enemies that are in the area of its death. So when you think about it, it's a weaker version of influence, but because it's toxin, it's a lot deadlier to shields and HP based enemies, because toxin allows damage to bypass directly to the health of enemies. So with that knowledge, I tried to make a build using different inspirations in the community to build on that toxin aspect of the weapon. For arcanes, I opted for melee afflictions. Now, you don't usually see these on melee weapons just because influence is that good, but this one is perfect for the SPINNEREX, essentially on rank 5, and this is very easy to rank 5 by the way. You could probably get one for less than 50 platinum in the Warframe marketplace. Enemies affected by status effects gain 6 additional stacks when they're knocked down or flung by melee weapons. This is perfect for the SPINNEREX because the stance that we're gonna be using flings enemies around, knocks enemies around quite a lot. And remember, our passive, we want as much stacks, specifically toxin stacks, on the enemies when they die and explode. Now we go into the mods. Of course, stance mod, use what you want, but I really recommend the Coiling Viper because a lot of flings and knockdowns with this stance. Just light attacks alone, you do a lot of knocking down and flinging enemies with this stance right now. For the Exilus mod, I picked Discipline's Merit. Now, here's the fun part. Whips have a special aspect to them where if you heavy attack, you fling enemies. I don't know if it's fling or knockdown, but it's one of the two. And that procs melee affliction. Once again, we go to the meaty part of the build. Condition overload. Primed reach for more range because it's a whip. It already has a big range. Adding +3 is gonna make it even bigger. Now, blood rush. More crit chance per multiplier combo. We're gonna be doing a lot of light attacks in this build. And because we have Tenokai, we're not really gonna be losing combo multipliers. So the blood rush is perfect for this build right here. Galvanized Elementalist. Guys, if you still don't have Galvanized Elementalist in 2025, what are we doing? Like, what are you doing right now? This is plus 80% status damage, which is gonna be majority of our damage, by the way, on melee kills. Remember, explosions equals melee kills, and also more status chance, but it stacks. So 30 times 4, that's 3, 6, 9, 12. That's 120% more status chance as well. That's big. Prime Fever Strike, majority of our toxin damage is gonna be coming from this mod itself. If you don't have this, the normal Fever Strike would do, but I really recommend picking one of these up because this is a no-brainer priority 1 pickup whenever battle comes. Most melee weapons want toxin. If not for corrosive, then for viral. Lasting Sting. Now, I'm gonna be honest. I looked into other people's builds because I didn't want to copy paste somebody else's build, right? But majority of them had Lasting Sting. Now, I tested the build without Lasting Sting, and you could really see the difference in damage because unlike other status effects, Toxin drops down very quickly once it's stacked. Like, it drops down dramatically. So, having more status duration increases your damage overall, and with it being 110%, the mod is just too good. Now I understand why it has 16 drain. I can't justify putting anything else. I've tried putting a prime pressure point. I've tried putting a pain mod. A pain mod would probably be good here in this build as well because it's a toxin DOT based build, but Lasting Sting is the way to go here, especially because it's so accessible for new players. It's a bronze mod. If you don't have this, are you playing Warframe? This isn't really that big of a crit chance weapon, but since we already have Blood Rush, not using Galvanized Steel feels like a stupid decision to do. This one is the situational mod that you could change. A lot of people prefer a Bane mod. You know me, you know my videos. If not, then hello. I do not like Bane mods. I do not like that I need to change build every time I want to boot up a different mission type or a different planet or a different faction. So I just picked Magnetic Rush right here because it's gonna give us magnetic, which is gonna help us for condition overload, and of course it's gonna give us more attack speed, and more attack speed is always good for these types of weapons that you need affliction for, because you're gonna be flinging enemies right and left even faster. Why don't we try out the weapon in the simulacrum? One downside of this weapon is that it's really not strong with starting out. It really needs to stock up and kill enemies. It needs constant amounts of enemies, hordes of enemies, for it to keep up on DPS with the other melee influence weapons. But it's still good for a signature weapon of a Warframe. Usually signature weapons, they're good, right? But they're not super good that you'd rather use it over a melee influence weapon or a slam weapon, until the nerfs at least. But this one, I could argue with it being useful. You're gonna say, oh no, those are just level 230 enemies. They're not that hard to do. Bro, look at them. They're dead. You want harder things? Let's do harder things. Corrupted Bombards. Surely you won't say that that's easy, right? They're only level 250. Bro, majority of the people that play Warframe don't do level cap. So if you're not happy with this damage, then you're way too advanced in the game to even worry about guides like these. But look at that. Now you're gonna say, oh, it's the dog. It's the dog. It's the robot dog that's doing the most damage right here. And I agree. The dog is stupid OP. Okay, this is without the dog, without any buffs whatsoever. You get your stacks up. You get your Tenokai mod. They're all knocked down. Afflictions pops in. It's really not that bad. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just being sentimental. Remember when Atarax was still a meta pick? When we were Meme striking all over the place doing this. Bro, those were the days, man. Now, I don't want them to bring it back because it was brain dead content. But oh, how good that brain dead content actually was. And I want you to keep in mind that that was without any buffs whatsoever. Why don't we try out Rhino Roar plus Nourish? Oh my god. Yep. Yep, the roar does so much for the dot. Now, realistically, you're gonna have a companion. Either it's gonna be a Panzer for viral, a Nautilus Prime for grouping, or a Robodogo for just overall more damage. Let's try out Nautilus Prime because I could see this being so OP with the Nautilus Prime because it's grouping it for you and then they explode, making the grouping infinitely more useful. Lord, oh my god, man. What happened? Where are they? Okay, a Gross with just 4. No helmet other than 4. Lord, I just love Goss, man. This is just a Goss video. This is just a Goss video disguised as a weapon review. I haven't touched my Volk in quite a while. I really should update the build. And right, the Valkyr heirloom is gonna release pretty soon. Frick, man, I don't even have a build for her yet. Okay, Volk, chill out. Oh my god. I'm just glazing melee weapons, man. I just love Unga Bungaing, clicking, holding your E, and just destroying anybody in your path. Look at this. But yeah, that's it for the SPINNEREX video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. I'm gonna see you guys in the next weapon review, build guy, whatever we're doing here. Comment down below what weapon I should do next. Peace out.